I would like to talk about timeline science. I know it's a new thing. I know it's an undiscovered thing. But in Earth and in reality, we live on multiple timelines. So, for example, I'm going to draw a timeline. Okay. This is now. And this is, let's say this is 0 BC. All right, let's say that's 0 around the time. Let's say this is around the time of Christ. Okay. So from here all the way to now, which is 2021. Oh, what year is it? 2020. You see what happens when you talk timelines. So 2020, so let's just round it up and say 2,000 years. Okay, we're taking a pretty big chunk over 2,000 years. Let's break it down a little bit. Now, because I want to use this, for the modern era, since a lot of things are happening. Let's pick we're going to pick a baseline here. I'm going to pick a baseline here of the year, let's say 1900. Okay, that's 1900 to 2020. So this is 120 years. So it's not the scale. And then we're going to just go down here and just say these are the, this is going to be like the 1400. Okay? So it's not to scale because a lot of things happen here. Now, this is a timeline. So the timeline starts, something starts, right, here, and it travels. Now, what happens is the timeline, it's a flow of time. Now, when there is an event, the timeline can change, right? It's like a beam of light. And what we'll see is timeline is connected to our consciousness, right? Or you might, if you're a scientist, you say consciousness. If you're a spiritualist, you say spirit. To me, that's the same thing. It's that there's something that has no organ, that we cannot identify, that guides us and connects us. We are all connected by consciousness and spirit, even though we have a body. So this is our consciousness, right, direction. Consciousness, to me, is basically light, right? Light particles. And high frequency. Okay? Now, when we get to an event, it can be deflected. So consciousness, if it's global consciousness, it can alter. And there's another event, and that could taper off. Another event, and we could come down, and we can go, and all these events, see these events? These events, we can have this event, and then we end up here. So what's happened is consciousness is not in a steady state because there are events. We live in a reality of events, right? There might be a war here, so we go this way. There might be a disease here, right? Now, this is the basic timeline, 2020, as we understand it. Now let's look at some major events, just so we have an idea of history, so that we're all on the same page. 1900 is, let's say, that's when we got electricity. Big leap, electricity, right? And a lot of that came from this period here. This period was the Renaissance, right? Renaissance, art, culture, science. It's really the birth of science, philosophy. So we have this Renaissance. People start experimenting. There's this boom here. There's electricity. Einstein, right? Einstein, theory of relativity. He invents this thing called the photoelectric effect. And that leads, to here, 1947, which are solid state electronics, right? Solid radios. You have integrated circuits. 47, integrated circuits. You have transistors on chips. Let's go here to the 60s. Transistors on chips. You have the mainframe computers, right? Mainframes. Big computers. 1960. What happens in 1960? You have NASA, right? Let's go to the moon. Most of what happened in NASA was based on computers and transistors and integrated circuits. So the development of these led to this elevation to the moon, right? You can see that. The electricity led to an elevation. The Renaissance, led to an elevation over 300 years, but it led to an elevation. So now we have large computers, we're going to the moon, we're all excited. So what do they start to do? In the 70s, they start to build cellular networks, right? So by 83, we have cell phone. Integrated circuits. Cell phone. 1989, we have the World Wide Web. Right? 1989. 2007, we have the iPhone. Right? Cell phone, 1983. 1984, we have the Macintosh computer. Apple. 84. 83, we got cell networks. 84, we have personal computer, desktop computer. We have World Wide Web. We have the internet. 2007, iPhone leads to social media age. Why? Why do I say social media age? Because who do we have here? We have in 2004, Facebook. 2005, YouTube. 2006, Twitter. All of these, notice that. 2005, 2006, we have blogging, we have video, and we have tweets, messaging, basically Morse code, an advanced form of Morse code. Telex. 2007 is an iPhone, right? Can you see the development here? So this one step leads to the other. You have this elevation. iPhone opens up the door to the social media age and more advanced networks, right? Now, so you're getting an idea. You're getting an idea of this timeline. So I've given you some positives here, but let's look at some negatives. What happened around this time in history? The mid-1300s was the Black Death, right? The plague. This was the plague. Middle of the 1300s, 1346 to 1353. The bubonic plague kills 75 million to 200 million lives. It precedes, right? It precedes the Renaissance. The Black Death, which killed, there weren't that many people on the earth. 75 million to 200 million people die following the massive culling of the population. You have this Renaissance, right? During the Renaissance, with all these new ideas happening, you have the church, right? What is the church saying? The church, Christianity. Christianity says salvation. I think we're going to have to switch over. The church says the church says salvation, the church. You will be saved by the church. And if you don't follow the church, you're a heretic. And at the same time, Christianity splits. You have the Roman Catholic and you have the Protestant. And they have a different point of view. Now there's a competition for people. So how do you get worshipers when you have this kind of competition? You create an enemy, the devil. You say, we will save you from the devil. And the people say, where is the devil? And they say, that woman there is a devil worshiper, the witch. So, right? So this is around 1400 to the 1700s. You have the witch hunts. So what's happening in 1400 to 1700? You have the Renaissance. So you have the Renaissance going up, and you have the witch hunts going down. You have this art, culture, mind expansion, science, and you have church, salvation, believe in the one Savior. Be careful of the devil. And there's a lot of killing. It kills a lot of people in the witch hunts. The number I found, it's about, they killed about 50,000 people. Now, who are supposedly witches, but maybe they were just genetically advanced. What if they were just a genetically superior, right? Intelligent. There's 50,000. They were targeted and they were killed. So that takes you down, right? So you have this thing called a timeline. Okay? Now, without any interference, right? If all events equal out, we would end up here. But not all events are equal, right? You have a Renaissance, and you have the witch hunts, and then you have electricity, and you have a war, and you have disease, and then you have this kind of increase in technology, and you have this kind of scenario, right? And we've talked about this. Now, what's happened is, so this is the kind of the graph that we're going to look at. What's happened is, this is our graph, right? This is our graph, and let's say we started here in 0 BC, and this is the year 2020. Let's see, this is the year 2320. This is the year 2020. And this is the year 2520. Maybe I'll make it that 2220. There you go. So these are, let me flip this over, maybe it'll be easier. Okay, here you go. We're going to have this scenario. This is timeline science. 2220, 2020, and 2520. Okay, now we're starting, let's say here, this is 0 BC. Now, if you take all of the ups and downs that we talked about, the Renaissance and the witch hunts and the plagues and the television and the movies and the philosophy, right, and the wars and the YouTube, if we took all of that and amortized it, we should have been here in the year 2220. What's happened is, over the course of 2,000 years, we have lost about 10% of the signal, right? Remember, it's frequency. So frequency can go up, can go down, can go up and down, right? And then you take that, that's what we're doing, we're amortizing. We're amortizing it. Now, we have lost 10% of the signal over 2,000 years with the plagues and the Spanish flu and the wars and the witch hunts and the religion. So instead of arriving here in 2220, we actually arrived here in 2020. Now, so timeline science says, in the same period of time, our collective consciousness will reach a certain destination, right? It's just like, if you have an airplane, that's my airplane, and this has a better engine, and this is a smaller airplane. Now, this airplane will go much higher than this one, right? It's like a car, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, and another car, 0 to 60 in 8 seconds. So consciousness, over this period of time, if this is 0 to 60, which is now, it's the 2,000 years, right? If we say 0 to 2,000 years, and we're measuring it in years because it's a timeline. It's consciousness, it's frequency, it's measured in time. Just like this, seconds. Seconds is time, right? This is in a year. We're measuring it in years. Our consciousness, our collective consciousness, because of all the ups and downs, arrived here in this century instead of this century. In other words, we should have been we are technically a 23rd century culture. We should have been here, but we've been knocked down over centuries, over 20 centuries. Now, and we have remnants of this 23rd century, right? We have like the iPhone, social media, right? There's the YouTube. All of this stuff is basically 23rd century stuff. Now, what's happened at the same time, so this is the mass, these are the masses. The masses, we are here. The masses are here. At the same time, there's another group of people, you call them the secret societies and the cabal, who elevated their timeline. And they are here in the 25th century. 25th, 26th century, right? So the difference between these people, we call them the cabal, we call them secret societies, or we call them the second I call it the second civilization. Some people call it the breakaway. They are 500 years, which is a lot, ahead of us in thinking and in technology. So we might have an iPhone and they might have, some kind of glass phone. We have airplanes and they have spaceships, right? They have spaceships. They have cloaking devices, right? They might have access to time travel to some limited extent. They likely have met, along the way, they will have met what most people call ETs or star people. Okay? So this is where you get the blip, because you're going along as a society and you meet an advanced culture and then you jump. Right? And what happened is they kept this information secret while we just continued here, and then they jumped again. and hey, give us those quantum realizers, teach us about anti-gravity, and they kept it secret. So we went here along thinking there are no advanced culture, there is nothing else, and we just have to live in misery. So the timeline, see the timeline? It's split. We were downgraded. The consciousness, the frequency of the consciousness was degraded over time so that we are in the 21st century instead of the 23rd. I think it's around 10%. It's about 200 years. We lost 200 years. Not only did we lose 200 years, but these guys gained 500. So now they're 500 ahead of us. Instead of, we could have been a lot closer. And that's this battle for ideas, right? You get this battle for ideas. Is this possible? Is that not possible? Do you believe in time travel? Do you believe in astral travel? Do you believe in telepathy? Do you believe in magic? All of these ideas, actually, they exist, right? Advanced electronics, anti-gravity, space travel, space colonies, you know? We basically live in a space colony. But now our civilization is split. So we have at least two civilizations. Well, we have more. We have the two civilizations of human, right? You got the human 25th century and the human 21st. And then you got the Stellan, which are 25th plus. They can go much higher. They can be 30, 40, who knows. But this group is in secret, and they now can control the planet, and they can manipulate society and the masses. And they have the climate weapons. They have space weapons. And because we are so much at a disadvantage, we're trapped in lower egoic thinking, gender wars, pain, disease, monetary systems, hatred, rights, anger. We're here, and then these people help us so that we are not wiped out. Otherwise, we would be wiped out because these people want us to be wiped out. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened over 2,000 years, right? That they took advantage of new technologies, they stole new ideas, they talked to advanced people, they expanded their mind, they expanded their consciousness. Meanwhile, people here were denied expansion, and if you were expanding, you were called a witch, you were hunted, you were terrorized, they call you a conspiracy theorist. And so most people, the masses are in the 21st century, early 21st century. Some people kind of exist here. But, there's not so many of them. And they believe in these new ideas, and they use the most advanced technology, and they're into quantum physics, right? They're here. But that's still nothing. The 23rd is still nothing compared to what they're doing here. Even your highest level thinking does not match what these people are doing, because they're doing time travel, they're doing astral travel, they're doing interplanetary travel, they're traveling to different galaxies. They have healing technologies, they have de-aging technologies, right? They have advanced networks. and they're talking to a lot of these people. You know, this stuff is completely science fiction to us. So that's a little timeline science. It's based on frequency and consciousness, and whoever controls the advanced ideas can tell the others what to think, right? Through the television, through the movies, through the teachers. So even my view is, even you advance your thinking and you think outside the box, you're barely here. If you think this far, they call you crazy, right? If people are calling you crazy and you're pretty smart, you're reaching this level of thinking, but you're existing inside of a limited reality, right? This is the this is, the consciousness of the masses, and then individual consciousnesses can be higher, and they can form little groups. But the planet can only progress from the masses. We have to alter mass consciousness, which is very difficult when these guys do not want us to advance. And they give us, wars, disease, climate, and hatred, and etc. Right? If you believe in spaceships, you're a crazy guy. Even though they have spaceships, right? So this is the issue. It's based in timeline science. It's consciousness. The war is not about a war. The war is about lowering the frequency of humanity. A pandemic is not about a pandemic. It's about lowering the frequency. A terrorist attack is you lower the frequency. Fear lowers the frequency. Disease, stay inside, lowers the frequency. Now you keep lowering the frequency, you lower the frequency, and we're going to eventually, if you keep lowering the frequency, eventually, there's a cliff, and that's where they want us to go. Right? So we have to counter that and say, no, I'm not staying inside. I don't care. I believe in spaceships. I believe in quantum mechanics. I'm going to develop this. I'm going to do this. I'm not afraid, right? When you understand consciousness, you will not listen, because we will go off this cliff. This is the cliff, okay? We're heading to the cliff. So, there's been some intervention to get us to this point, and we should have been at this point, but these guys are way ahead of us. They're way ahead of us. Now, if at some point we can figure this out, we can elevate the entire consciousness, and we could jump, right? If we can connect those 2 points, we could go from 2020 to, let's say, 2100. We could go up to the 24th century, right? That's very possible. But it would mean really accepting these ideas and reaching out and connecting and sharing. Again, it becomes hard because as soon as we start to elevate, there's a pandemic, there's a climate war, there's a disease, there's a physical war, there's hatred, there are protests. As soon as you start to go up, they knock you down. Timeline science. It's very new, and I don't expect everybody to understand it. As you can see, there's a lot of moving pieces, and we don't know what to equate the shift, right? How much does frequency go up when you meet advanced cultures? How much does frequency go down when you have a pandemic? How much does frequency go down when all they talk about is climate change? Right? Even though they're manufacturing it. Right? So open your mind. Keep an open mind. That's number one. Keep an open mind, number one. Be positive. Be positive. That's number two. Be positive. I mean, not stupid. I mean, positive. Be positive. When you feel the fear, then that's when you start to take action. Right? If you see fear, mass fear, take action. If you see hysteria, mass hysteria, take action. That's your basic, that's your basic advantage. Okay. Thank you.